Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar event. My name is Joshua. I hope everybody can hear me okay. It's promptly 1 p.m. Eastern Time here. We're going to go ahead and get started. We're here to talk about entering and paying bills in Church Windows accounting today. Before we get started on our topic, a couple things. We're going to be together for the next 20 minutes, so at 20 minutes after 1 Eastern Time, wherever I am, I'm going to wrap things up, and we're going to, see what questions are out there or may need to be answered. If you have questions for me about the enter bills, pay bills process, please type those into the questions portion of the webinar event. Please, I will do my best to keep an eye on those and see what we can't do to get those answered during the webinar event. Excuse me. The topic that we're using today is, while you do have enter and pay bills in our Church Windows training workbooks, the document that I'm using as the basis for today's event can be found here under our support center by simply clicking under our support center page, clicking under our keyword here, and we're just going to type in enter bills and search. And right here we've got accounting, enter bills, pay bills, and print checks. Right here, when I click on that, it opens up and there's a video that's already out here from earlier in the year on this same topic, or the document that I'm using right here, viewer print PDF file on the enter bills, pay bills process, or as it says watch the video below. So let me grab my highlighter here. So right here, viewer print PDF or watch the video below. Okay? So again, there's a document and a video out here from earlier in this year on this very exact same topic that you can revisit if you still have questions about, or you're unsure about some stuff that we've covered today. So what is most important, if we get back into our accounting here, what we're talking about here is enter bills, pay bills. Enter bills right here, pay bills just to the right of that, pay bills. Okay? 9.5 times out of 10, folks, you're going to need to do both of these steps. Okay? If we don't enter the bill, we're not affecting our expense account. Basically, we're not reducing the fund balance through the expense, and we're not putting the balance into the vendor or payee account to be paid. Okay? And if we don't pay the bill, the vendor is left with the balance of the bill, so we're not debiting it to clear out that vendor account, and we're not affecting our cash account for our bank reconciliation, nor are we recording a payment method. There are a few rare occasions where you may be able to go right to pay bills and record the payment transaction. An example might be pass-through monies that come in through donations that are sitting in the church's account but waiting to be paid to another nonprofit. Common recent examples might be hurricane relief or American Red Cross or, something like that, where the church has raised money. They don't want to put it on their balance sheet or on their or not put it on their treasurer's report as income or an expense. Pass-through monies. Another one might be payroll taxes for things like your 941 federal taxes payment or your state or local taxes, if applicable. But virtually in almost any other circumstance, you're going to enter bills first, then pay them. Okay, so let's click on enter bills. No, I clicked on pay bills. Sorry. Click enter bills. So the enter bills process opens, and as the document shows us here, it always starts with the date occurred. The date occurred will always default to the date on your computer, so it is October 23rd. That's the date. Change it to whatever date you're wanting in the accounting year that you want it to affect your expense and your vendor. Okay, so if I needed to backdate this to, September, I certainly could. I could put backdated transactions on this back to January 1. It's only going to allow me to enter it, the dates as they occur in the accounting year that my accounting is set to. So in this case, 2017. But again, it's the date that we want it to affect our accounts and our reports. So we'll leave it as today's date. There's an invoice number place where you can have it. It's an optional. Both invoice number and due date are optional fields. If you don't enter those at all, notice we've got these little light switches here next to these. We can click on those to disable those. Okay. But if you have them, we certainly recommend entering them. If there is a due date, enter it. It's just more information that you can help, that you can allow you to use to harness more power of the software. Then we would come down here to our vendor/payee, and here we can either click the down arrow, and scroll down the list and look for a particular vendor, or we can type in the name. So we're going to type in City Florist. And there it is. Hit enter. I can enter transaction comments if I wish. Comments that are available to report against any account in the entry. Then when you tab down here, and this is one of the things I like to point out, is right here, notice it says expense/income accounts. While most of the time these bills are going to be recorded to expenses, you can certainly debit an income account. So while it shows those 500 expenses initially, as we scroll down here, notice it is eventually allowing us to get to our 400 accounts. So if your intention is to wash out or offset an income line, you can do that. But in most cases, we're going to be debiting expenses. So we're going to replace this and we're going to type in flowers. So there's our flowers expense. And then we would type in the amount, of the amount of our bill that we received from our city florist. And then we would tab over and enter any line item comments if we had them. And then we would simply click Done, Add to Batch. Our cursor is now flashing up in the date field, ready for us to enter either a new date. You move over, the same process starts over ad nauseum, and where we would choose the next vendor, from our list. So another example of something like this might be maybe we've got a split bill. So let's say O'Brien Business Equipment, and we're going to choose office supplies, office expense, and we're going to say we had a $135 expense to this, and then we had another expense for bulletins. And we purchased, something for bulletins there that we charged. So we're charging two separate expense accounts for this. This would be what is called a multi-line bill, where I don't have to charge don't have to record two different entries to the same vendor as two separate bills. The only reason why I would ever need to do that was maybe if I wanted to have different dates occurred on those bills charged to those expenses, might I need to do that. But if I'm good with them all sharing the same date occurred, I can enter, as many expense accounts as I want. A common example of that would be something like our credit card bill. So we might have a credit card bill where, we've got 8 or 10 or 12 or 15 different expenses all charged, again, as long as they're showing up and all good with sharing the same date. So I'm being asked, what is the difference between transaction comments and the line item comments? Good question. So transaction comments up here are comments that are available to show whether I run the report for O'Brien Business Equipment or office expenses or bulletins. Line item comments are comments that will show exclusively to the account that they're entered against. So if I enter something against office expenses, those comments will only appear when I run the report for the office expense account. It won't show, or aren't available to show when I run it for the O'Brien Business Equipment or for bulletins. Okay? So line item comments are account-specific, transaction comments are not. I'm also being asked to talk about credit memo. So a credit memo would be used when I've received a credit for a returned item, something that isn't affecting cash. So let's say here I've received something back, a credit back from O'Brien Business Equipment for something against my guest programs. No, let's choose something different here. Paper. I've returned something to them, and I've returned some paper. It wasn't the right kind of paper we wanted, so we've received a $30 credit for them. And now notice when I check credit memo, it reduces the overall amount of the actual bill that I'm entering here, right here. So it took initially a $180 bill, and has now reduced it down to $150 because I've received a credit from them, so I don't owe them that amount. If I'd received something from, that I could deposit from O'Brien Business Equipment, I would not use credit memo. I would use enter income for that. But I've not received anything I can deposit. I'm going to be using the credit memo function. I've received merchandise credit or merchant credit. Okay? Good question. So then I would simply, again, click Done, Add to Batch. Okay? So again, folks, that if I don't enter the expense or the bill, then I'm not affecting my expense accounts for my treasurer's report and perhaps not affecting my budget. Okay? Again, many of these questions are answered or answered on the actual document from the website, just saying that they're probably going to be there and answered if you have them. If not, please call us. We're happy to talk about it with you. So we're going to enter these two bills and we're going to pay those. So if you're going to enter the bills now and then not pay them till next week, we're just going to choose post. Okay? Or if you're ready to post and pay those bills immediately, then you're going to choose post and pay these bills. Okay? Because it'll just pre-select them on the next screen. But we're going to choose post. Okay? What'll happen is it'll print the report if you choose post and pay these bills, and then it'll immediately open up the pay bills with these entries pre-selected for us. But there's a reason why I'm not. So we're just going to choose post. I'm not going to print that report. It now clears out my enter bills window, and now I'm ready to go to pay bills. Okay? On the third or fourth page of our document on our website, it talks about additional ways to process payments. There are multiple ways here. I can go up here to the Select Vendor Payee list up here and click the down arrow, and I can choose the vendor that I'm wanting to pay from the list, basically one at a time. Or the more preferable way of doing that would be to go up here to our Quick Pay button in the upper right and choose one of these three options. Bills entered today, view vendors with a balance, or do I want to view any of my outstanding bills? So logic says that since I just posted those bills, if I choose bills entered today, the two bills that I posted will pop in. We're going to try that. And there they are. Actually, I entered one earlier today before our class began or our webinar began, simply because I wanted to show that there was something already in this list, that it does work, whether I entered one earlier today or whether I entered them just now. If it had a date posted on it today of 10/23 of 17, it's going to pop into this list. Okay? The other option is we're going to just remove these, and we're going to clear these out because I want to bring in bills in another way. If I do under Quick Pay and view vendors with a balance, it's going to reveal any of my vendors with a balance, however they got there, whether it's generated through a bill or through payroll, for my taxes, or for pass-throughs from donations. It doesn't matter. It's going to show a vendor in this list with a balance. So here's my O'Brien Business Equipment. There's my City Florist. There's my Christian Bible Supplies, all with those bills in there. Okay? So if I go now to Quick Pay and view outstanding bills, my 941 taxes are not going to be in there because that's just a balance. It's not a bill. So if I click on View Outstanding Bills, here are the three bills that I entered, but things like those state taxes payable, my 941 payment, they're not here because, again, those weren't recorded through bills. Those were recorded those balances were generated in those vendors another way. Okay? So if I did want to pay my taxes, I would go to View Vendors with a Balance, click Check My 941 Taxes Payable, click Create Payments, and again, moving left to right, I would simply enter my date, my asset, type in my amount that I wanted from my 941 balance, choose my electronic or EFT, since most likely I went online and paid those, and I would post that. Okay? But we're now going to go up and we're going to choose the bills entered today to add the rest of those. Nice, quick, and easy way for us to be able to generate those bills, or to bring in those bills that I entered today, as well as recording my 941 tax payment. Okay? This quick pay and view outstanding bills list is only going to reveal a list of any transactions or bills that are outstanding. Nothing more. Okay? I like to tell folks again, make sure that as you click on each one of these vendors that this Pay Now box is checked. We want to make sure that those invoices are cleared out, that they're marked as paid. Otherwise, we're going to have outstanding bills showing up where there's bills that are showing up as outstanding that actually are paid that have zero balances. Okay? So again, we would start on left to right, making sure that our date occurred was right. We would choose our asset account. We want to verify the amount to pay. Let me get out my highlighter here. So if I want to change any of these, I can just click in the date occurred for any one of these line items and I can correct that. Same is true for my asset account or my amount to pay or my payment method. Okay, so as we clearly saw earlier, I had my payment method set up for my IRS or tax payment as EFT. I can click in any one of these and change those individual items at will. Right here. I can click right here under City Florist and change it from computer check to manual to cash to debit card, whatever I want. I'm not going to enter my check or reference number, of course, because that'll be entered when I post my payment. I can enter comments, or if there are comments that I have on the bill, on the right-hand side, I would use this INS or insert button that would allow me to copy and paste any comments from my bills into my payment transactions. Okay? When I'm ready, I would either choose post, or if I'm ready to post these payments and print my checks, I'm most likely going to choose post and print checks. Okay? So if I click post and print checks, it tells me, do I want to print a report of the payment transactions posting? No, we're not going to do that. It now then opens up my print checks window. Should open up my print checks window right over the top of this with those 3 checks that I have waiting to print, and here they are. Okay? One of the things I point out about this is we notice here in the upper left-hand side, again, the check date defaults to today's date, but if I want the date on my check to be something different, I can change that. Okay? But I like to point out, this is not a date on the transaction. This is just the date that I'm putting on the checks. The date that the bank technically should be able to honor the check. Okay? And a lot of times I get questions on that through support. Well, my date of my bill and my date of my payment are separate. Why is the date on the check different? Well, somebody changed it right here when they were printing the check. There's no record of that other than on the actual check or check stub itself. It's not associated with the original transaction. Generally, they're going to be the same, but occasionally they're different. So I would choose my check type that I'm using. It only is going to reveal the accounts that actually have checks waiting to print. Notice here down the left-hand side, I do have the ability to tell the system which checks I'm printing. It's going to default to wanting to check them all. Okay? So if I don't want to print a specific check, I would simply uncheck, say, my Christian Bible Supplies, and now when I enter my starting check number and hit Tab, notice it's only going to put a check number in the check number column for those that I have checked for select or print, not those that I don't. Okay? So if for some reason I needed to hold off and print Christian Bible Supplies check later, I would uncheck that. As it is, we're going to check that, and notice it auto-sequenced those check numbers for us. Okay? Notice here to the right I've got a memo line. So if I want to put a particular memo on the memo line of the check for a specific vendor or payee, this is where I would enter that. So if I just click in the memo line here and just start typing, test memo, there it is. And once I've entered my starting check number and clicked print, it now opens up the preview of my checks. And when I go down to my bottom one for my O'Brien Business Equipment, we notice here on the left-hand side here on the actual check in the memo line, there's my memo. Okay? Those won't appear on the stub. Only the comments from the bill or the payment would appear on the stub. The memo line comments will only appear on the check itself. And then I would simply click print in the upper left to send that to my check stock and print those checks. Okay? it's really important, folks, that we do all those steps if you're producing those checks. We're at 20 minutes. I'm done with what I'm here to cover on that document. Not sure if I got to every little bit of that, but again, it's there, folks, for you to review 24/7 or the video of the previous event. Again, 9.5 times out of 10, we're going to do enter bills, pay bills. There are the occasions when we won't, but if not, then we're going to be leaving a balance on our balance sheet under our accounts payable ledger account. So the best way to check those is to revisit your accounts payable balance on your balance sheet when you're done to ensure that that account shows as zero balance. Then we know we've entered those bills and paid them properly. All right, let's see what questions we've got. Oh, I don't see any questions in here. All right, maybe I'll give folks a few seconds here to type something into me here if you have questions. Or, of course, as I like to remind folks, if you have questions that come up after the event is over, of course, you can email those to us or you can call support at 800-533-5227. All right, well, I'm not seeing any questions coming in. I'm hoping that means I did a good, thorough job on this today. I don't want to end the event too soon. I know those questions sometimes can be lengthy to type in. Well, I'm not seeing anything, and it looks like folks are kind of exiting the room here pretty quickly. So, again, the video out there is on the website, folks. If you want to revisit this, it's the same topic from earlier in the year. We hope it's been helpful, and I'm going to go ahead and end the webinar for everybody. And we hope to see you folks at another future Church Windows webinar event. All right. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye-bye.